Thanks. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me this afternoon. We are going to start with a little fun activity here. Kind of introduce myself. So this is, I'm sure you guys have all heard of Two Truths, One Lie. Have you guys heard of this little icebreaker before? So basically, for me, which one of these is a lie? I once worked as a blackjack dealer. I used to be an elementary school teacher, or I was a data analyst early in my career. So I'll give you a minute to think about it. And then I'll just do a quick show of hands. Those online, just kind of think about what you think this is. So
if you're online, you can type it in chat. We'll see what
oh yeah, do that. Type it in chat because Mark can monitor the chat. So how many people think the lie I once worked as a blackjack dealer? Okay, one. Okay, only about one here in the room. How many think it says I used to be an elementary school teacher? Oh, okay, good. About half here in the room. And how many think it was I was a data analyst early in my career? Okay, we've got about 10 of those. All right, and the answer is I was a data analyst early in my career. So yeah, so fun fact here, and I have another introductory slide on myself, but when I went to Chico State, which is school in California, I'm a native Californian, but I've been here in Mass about 2 decades now. And many students who went to Chico State and Davis would live up in Tahoe in the summers and have a summer job working in the casinos there as blackjack dealers. So that was a really fun fact. I did that. Oh, sorry. I have my daughter on bypass. Sorry about that. Let me just put that away. She'll have to, I try to always say to her, I'll answer because I want you to answer when I call. She's a senior this year in high school. So
we'll pass around stickers one.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, so basically it was a really fun job. I did it for a couple summers, and I just thought it would be a fun icebreaker to start the talk. So a little bit about me. Right now I work at Mongo DB. I'm a senior academia partner, which means that my job is to partner with higher ed universities and colleges and the professors there to share with them the Mongo DB for Academia program, which is free teaching and learning resources for educators and students to start learning MongoDB document database, which is a NoSQL database, which there's relational databases, which have been historically taught mostly, but NoSQL databases like MongoDB in the last 2 decades have really come out to deal with a lot of unstructured and semi-structured data, which is much more difficult to store in a relational database. And so I've been at MongoDB a little over a year. Really for me, I think in my job and what I've been doing over the last few years, which is on the next slide, is I really focus on authenticity, transparency, like to build relationships and connections with people, you need to be authentic. Even if the message is not, like oftentimes you have to tell people things they don't want to hear, whether it's in your personal, school, or work life. And the reality is it's important to be honest and upfront about that and to help solve the problem. It's pretty common in business that basically if there is an issue, if you address it and you help work through it, then you're going to actually build a lot more trust with the customer, and they're going to actually be more willing to be a loyal customer than if you try to like make it sound not so great and then not end up resolving the issue. So for me, that's a really big thing. I definitely think that it's also a strength of mine is you have to be really adaptable. One of the things that you'll probably hear a lot throughout this presentation is like, you're learning right now, you're, working on your degree, but that's not going to end when you get out of college. There's always going to be learning, especially in technology. It's always changing. Think about this. 5 years ago, we didn't have ChatGPT, right? Before that, blockchain. There's lots of different technologies and things are evolving. So you definitely really need to be a lifelong learner. And then outside of work, I'm an educator at heart. I like to run, ski, and hike. This is a picture of me with Monomoskoy Island, where I live in Cape Cod in Mashpee, one of my favorite spots. And then skiing with my boyfriend and, traveling is one of the other things that I love to do. That's my daughter, Sierra, who just interrupted our talk because I have her on bypass. And then my daughter's a big horseback rider. So that's her horse on it. So I also like to make jewelry. I haven't done that a lot, haven't had a lot of free time for that in recent years. And as I mentioned, I was born and raised in California, but I've been here in Mass about 2 decades now. So the next slide here is kind of my career journey. As I mentioned, I got my undergraduate degree at Chico State in bilingual cross-cultural studies. So I speak Spanish. I taught elementary school for 7 years in California. Then I decided, hey, all my friends are working in tech, doing quite well. I thought I'd like to get a change. And so I actually took my skills. I think this is one of the other things about your career is a lot of times you can reinvent yourself, playing to your strengths and taking what you know and applying it in a different situation. So at Nortel, they had an academic program for working with higher ed and high schools. And because I have that education background, even though I didn't know the technology necessarily as well, I was able to learn that and then take the core skills that I had in partnering with the schools. So I was still doing an education type job, but just in a different facet. And when I was at Nortel, they ended up end of lifing that program. And then I became a certification exam developer. I know, still kind of education. How many of you here have taken a certification or a test? Few of you, yeah. So I was like the person that was like working with the subject matter experts to build the question banks and validate them and do all of that. So that was like a really good learning experience. So I stayed at Nortel for about, 4 or 5 years, and then I got laid off, which if you're going to be in tech is kind of, I call it a rite of passage. Because it does happen, but it doesn't mean typically anything about you. It's companies restructure, industries go up and down. And so that's kind of where you kind of, I'm going to talk about this later, but start building your network now, like in LinkedIn, and, connect to everyone that you meet through events, your classmates, your professors. It's definitely a great online platform professionally to have. And so I got laid off and I was like, okay, I need to find a job. And so I started working with my network, and my partner at the time knew someone at Iron Mountain, and he connected me with them. And I just took an informational interview. He asked if the woman would just meet with me, who was running their training department. And this is another great strategy. So definitely put this in your back pocket. And I met with her and she liked me. And a week later, she called and offered me a job. And I wasn't even actually interviewing for any particular job. So that's like a really great strategy that you can use, to just ask for informational interviews. But I had already accepted a job. I didn't put it in here, in between Nortel and EMC, at a startup that was out of Boston, Newbury Street. And they did, it was PHP LAMP technology, and they would do like custom support for books for like Houghton Mifflin and things of that nature. I ran their and that was a really good learning experience, but startups are pretty tough. I mean, you work a lot. My ex-partner used to be like, studio, and I used to go in the bathroom. That was the only place, and like type on my laptop in there. But I worked there for a year and I learned a lot. It was a really good experience. And then EMC, which got acquired by Dell about 6, 7 years ago. Again, LinkedIn saw my profile on LinkedIn and approached me about a job. So I ended up going to EMC, and I was there for a little over 10 years. I started there managing their Centera ISV partner program. So independent software vendors often will integrate to technology companies, and they need people to manage that program, the integration, validate it, do all that. I actually loved that job. But they were kind of scaling down that program, and I found out they also had an academic program at EMC. So I ended up going there, loved it, did that job for 10 years. It was awesome. Again, partnering with professors, getting to speak with students like yourself, talking about storage, and why storage is important, especially with server virtualization. It became the underpinnings of it became really important. I also, when I was there, worked with training partner Global Knowledge. They would, and a few other training partners like Ellen McKay and Skillsoft, who would resell EMC training. So I really liked doing that. And then after 10 years, I decided to leave and go to Palo Alto Networks. They also had an academic program. I loved it. I managed it for 3 years. And then I left there and went to Alteryx, which also had an academic program, business analytics. I think some people here know Alteryx. If anybody here have a business analytics minor, this was in the last talk I gave. Anybody? Okay. Well, how many people know Nortel you probably don't know, because they ended up not being a company anymore. EMC, Dell EMC, anybody? You people? EMC is a big, Dell EMC got acquired, a big employer here in Mass. So if you're not familiar with them, definitely would recommend. They're not too far from here. They're in Hopkinton and Franklin. How about Palo Alto Networks? Anybody? Cybersecurity, a few people? Anybody? Alteryx didn't sound like anybody knew that. Okay, these are all tech companies. And now I'm at Mongo DB. Anybody in Mongo DB? Oh, okay. Well, these are all new names. So these are some great technology companies. I would highly recommend you look at them. But I've been very fortunate. I would say, like, the main thing is do something you love. That's really important. Like, you're going to spend a lot of time at work. You definitely want to do something you're passionate about. So that definitely think that's a critical thing about a career. So just a little bit about MongoDB. Since I'm currently working there now. So I actually wasn't super familiar with MongoDB either. But a few people that I knew when I was working at Alteryx went over to MongoDB. So again, this is kind of like the networking thing, and a perfect job opened up there. I also unfortunately got laid off from Alteryx. So in tech, this happens a lot where they were a publicly traded company and they got bought by private equity, and they ended up laying off a big part of their workforce because of just downsizing and restructuring. And I got really fortunate that a job was a perfect job for me opened up at MongoDB, and people that I know from my jobs from working at Alteryx referred me for it. I will say this, anytime you know someone and they get you that opportunity, that's going to be the door opener, but you still have to like interview, and still there's going to be a lot of different people you're going to interview with, and you're going to also, that's going to give you the opportunity, but you're still going to need to close the deal basically with the other people. So when I interviewed at MongoDB, I would think of all the jobs I've interviewed for. It was probably, after Palo Alto Networks, the most interviews I had. I had to interview with the recruiter, then you interview with the hiring manager, then you interview with two people on the team, and then one of my manager's peers, and then I had to interview with the VP of the organization. So it was about a 6 to 8 week interview process. Different companies, like at Palo Alto, when I interviewed there, I knew quite a few people there as well. That's how I got referred over there. I knew the hiring manager. 3 of the people that were on the team I had worked with, they had been professors. So that was like a group interview, which is always interesting. And then I had to interview with the VP as well. So, but at MongoDB, if you're not familiar, we've been around for not quite 2 decades. Founded in 2007, publicly traded 10 years later. We have almost 60,000 customers in 100 countries. A little over 5,000 employees. And even during this sort of, kind of little bit tight period in tech for hiring, if any of you are aware of that, we're still actively hiring, and we are growing. And then we have 175,000 developers that are joining us every month to start using MongoDB. Hundreds of millions of downloads of MongoDB. So no surprise, any company today in tech typically might have an on-prem offering where you install it on your machines, which we have Community Edition for free for anyone that wants to install it locally. But we also have obviously an enterprise version. The Community Edition is free, and you can't really use it to run a business necessarily. That's where the enterprise version would come in. And then we also have MongoDB Atlas, which is a free cloud version. So any student, you don't even have to be a student, any user anywhere can get a free MongoDB Atlas cluster. And we have over 1,000 technology and service providers. And then this is just really quickly the difference between a database. So a database is basically any application, anything you're doing now on your phone is going to need to store and retrieve that data. Let's take banking. You need to go back and look at a banking statement or your credit card statement. You need a statement from 5 months ago. You're going to need to call that up from a database. So traditionally, relational databases are it's like a spreadsheet. You have tables, different tables store different information that's related to each of the entries. And then it's, you have your row and columns. And it can start to become very spread out as different data that you need to store. You may probably have to take that database offline, and then bring it back on. With MongoDB, we're a document database, so it's a very flexible schema. MongoDB came about because the 3 founders of the company were running an advertising agency that had 400,000 ads per second. and they were struggling to store it in their relational database. So they ended up creating MongoDB. And that's one of my fun questions after. It talks about where does the name MongoDB comes from. But it's using JSON, so open, close curly braces, and then you have key value pairs separated by a semicolon. So basically the premise of MongoDB is your data should all be stored where data that's gonna be accessed together should be stored together. So definitely different ways of storing and managing data, but both are databases. And then this is just a basic description of the database, stores data for apps and end users, makes data accessible in a predefined and reliable way, and keeps things secure. Because obviously you don't want people getting into your applications and accessing your information unless it's you. So this is just a very good example. I like pictures. So the relational database, you needed to store a car, you would store the wheels in one table and the car lights in another and the paint color, and it would go on and on for all the parts of the car. So then when you wanted to like call the car back together, you'd have to join all of these tables back together. And that takes a lot of computing power and processing and can take time. In MongoDB, the car is stored as the car. It's stored in one document. And if you needed to add something, say you want to add, ski racks to this car, you would just go in and add a key value pair into the document. You're not adding another table for that feature. So that's kind of gives you a quick little overview. But the other thing is, we have you can access MongoDB. We have some benefits for students. So if you're interested in learning more about MongoDB and the technology, you can go out to mongodb.com/students. And basically, like I said, anybody can get a free Atlas cluster, but if you need more computing power, we give students $50 worth of additional credits. We also, if you complete a certification learning path, we give you a free cert voucher, which is about $150 value. And then we also talk about, we have a lot of spotlights of how students have used MongoDB in hackathons and also in classes that have projects. I would highly recommend, this would be very easy. You don't have to do anything else. If you go to this QR code, MongoDB has skill badges. They're 60 to 90 minutes of learning. This skill badge is an introductory badge. It's only available through this QR code. We don't have it on our commercial site. We have about, I think, 18 plus badges on different topics on the commercial site. But this one is basically like, what is a database? What is a NoSQL? What are the different types of NoSQL databases? Setting up a MongoDB Atlas cluster. And once you complete this badge, and there's like 10 questions at the end, you can retake those questions. You will get a Credly badge, which you could post to LinkedIn. So I highly recommend.
Are there prerequisites or assumed knowledge that you need for this one?
No, this one is basic. Prerequisite knowledge of the database. So I highly recommend. This is a very easy badge. It would only take you about 60, like I said, 60 minutes or less, depending on your knowledge. This badge.
Scanning your code.
The what?
I saw a few people.
Oh, great. And I don't know, do you make these slides available after?
With your permission, yeah.
Yeah, totally. I'll share the updated deck with you after. So definitely recommend you do this. I mean, I'll tell you this, before I came to MongoDB, I had to take the 12-hour intro to MongoDB. And this badge, also being a previous educator, anyone here should be able to pass. Plus you can retake it. The goal of the skill badges is about learning, and that's the goal. So that's why we allow you to retake the skill badges. You do have to get an 8 out of 10. So you can miss 2 questions on all the skill badges. Okay, next little fun fact here. Where does the name MongoDB come from? Is it mongoose, symbolizing speed and agility? Is it Mondrian, which is inspired by geometric data structures? Or humongous, reflecting its ability to handle massive data? So I'll give a little minute here, a few seconds here to think about it. So how many people think it's mongoose? Oh, nobody. Okay, Mondrian? Nobody. Oh, a few people. Or humongous. Okay, that seems to be the consensus. It does. It comes from, MongoDB comes from humongous, which is really about a massive database being able to scale and manage data effectively. I always think that's a nice little fun fact. There's the answer. And then let's see here. So, few career lessons. So I kind of wanted to take some key learnings for myself. I would say in college, I thought success meant following a straight path. Honestly, in life, nothing is a straight path. You thought you did this, you did that, which is kind of what happened when I wanted to be a teacher, but then I pivoted it. So you really need to realize that there's lots of different, left or right turns that you can take. You can stay on that straight path, but you definitely have options. And what I know now is growth comes from trying, failing, and learning. I would say, I don't know about all of you, you think you learn more when something comes easy or when something is more difficult? I don't know. I think you learn more when things are more difficult. You have to put more effort for it to learn it, and you tend to retain it better. I would say I also thought I needed to have it all figured out. You're never going to have it all figured out. It's okay to explore and pivot, which is what I did in my career. I mean, I didn't go to school to be a technologist, but I ended up working at technology companies. And then I also thought in college, networking feels awkward. I would say, you kind of have to get outside your comfort zone, and relationships are everything. So really, I would say like, put yourself out there. I said this in the talk I gave earlier that, the answers already no if you don't reach out and talk to people. So like, if you reach out, and I would be shocked if it wasn't well received. I would say it's definitely an exception if somebody isn't very responsive. But there's nothing that, definitely reach out to people. Like I said, you may be at different places. I don't know how many students are these mostly a varied amount, different?
Well, you guys are first year students, right?
First year?
Yeah.
Oh, you're all first year. Okay. So you have a lot of opportunity right now to connect with your students. How many of you have a LinkedIn profile? Do most of you have LinkedIn? Okay, awesome. So I would start like all your classmates, connect with them. You don't know where they're going to end up, because it could be that you know them now and you work with them on a project, and then maybe, 6 years later, they're working at a company and you want to apply for a job there. You definitely just ping them on LinkedIn and be like, hey, would you refer me for this position internally? When I was looking for a job, that's what I did. I went back to people I worked with at EMC, 8 years ago. They were super receptive to referring me to jobs at the company they were at now. That is going to be a really important skill. So it's very easy on your phone, just connect to people. I would say, when you have opportunities now to go to events where companies are, do that. Go talk to people at the booths. Like Mongo DB does MongoDB.locals at different cities. Sometimes we run one here in Boston, and we give students a free code to register. It's typically $100, and you can attend for free. And you can go there, attend sessions, go to the MongoDB booths, talk to people, ask to connect with them, and then also go to our partners that are exhibiting at the events and connect with them. Definitely, I know sometimes it can be uncomfortable, but you got to put yourself out there. Even when I was looking for a job, I was like, hey, I got to just like check my ego and just put myself out there, whatever age. So definitely recommend that you really start building that network now. I definitely would say like, continue to be curious. Like, it's really important, like even when I don't understand something, it's better to ask and make sure you know something. I mean, luckily at our fingertips now, we have ChatGPT, and even in Google now, you get that summary in AI that comes up. So it's a lot of times you can figure stuff out yourself. But definitely, don't be afraid to ask when you don't know things. I would say build relationships, like kind of been driving that point home. It's really important to start doing that now. I would say also on LinkedIn, like, document what you're doing. Like it's easy to forget. When you go to an event, it's very easy to just author a quick post with the picture that you were there. And then you'll have that kind of history so that you remember things that you're doing and things you participated in. And really at the end of the day, you have to stay adaptable. Like the one constant in life is change. Like, I know that's kind of seems counterintuitive, but it's always going to be evolving and changing. So definitely recommend that. Some kind of lessons learned. Let's see here. So I love this proverb, this African proverb. Has anyone ever heard of it? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Anybody ever heard that before? So it's like a few people. Okay, so you can go fast and be by yourself, but if you really want to go far, it's teamwork. I know sometimes even now probably in high school, you know, when you got out of high school and now you're in college, you get on a team, maybe, you know, it's a cohesive team and everyone's doing their work, but maybe you're on a team and someone's maybe not totally pulling their weight. I mean, this is going to be the same when you get into the work world. So you kind of have to learn how to navigate that, right? Sometimes you have to have a not so fun conversation like, hey, you know, you're kind of dragging us down. Like, are you gonna, you know, you kind of have to be able to build those relationships and learn to have that, you know, those conversations. That's a chance for you to kind of grow and the other person to grow too. I mean, a big part of any job is feedback. And, you know, it's giving feedback, but it's also receiving feedback, which is not always easy. But it's really a chance for you to grow. I mean, one of the opportunities were in my last position at Alteryx, one of my coworkers, he's like a LinkedIn influencer. He has like 40,000 like LinkedIn followers. And he was always posting on LinkedIn. And I would post, but I got uncomfortable, and it was an opportunity for me to learn how to be better on LinkedIn, how to upskill. And actually I do a much better job now of posting all my professional stuff. And it's been great. I mean, I actually thank him. So I think keep in mind that when you feel uncomfortable, it's an opportunity for growth. Like you can shy away from it or you can embrace it and learn and actually like really improve yourself. So, and teamwork is very important. Like on the team I'm on now, like I'm always like asking my coworkers, hey, I wrote this, can you review it? Or, hey, can you give me feedback? You're going to end up having a much better product when you have multiple people reviewing and giving feedback on something you're working on than if you just do it yourself. So like, that's really the thing here is that also in your career, I've managed at different times, like I would say the best managers I have are going to want you to learn what they're doing and upskill yourself so that they can do other things. So like, that's where you really are going to have those really positive relationships where you really should be, people should be willing to share their knowledge and help each other. That's, I think, really important. And I always find that I also learn a lot from my coworkers. I love this little, this is something I read a few years ago. So I might not tell the story exactly right. But basically this daughter was graduating from college and her dad, has anybody ever heard about this Jeep analogy? Okay, sounds like that. So anyways, he's like, I have this really old Jeep. And he's like, you know, you should take it down to the used car lot and ask them how much money they'll give you for this Jeep. And so she did that. And they're like, oh, we'll give you like $1,000. And he's like, oh, okay, well, that doesn't really seem like much. He's like, you should take the Jeep, you know, down. I'm probably missing one of the story points here, but I'll go to the next one, which is you should take this Jeep to like a Jeep enthusiast club and see how much they'll give you for this Jeep. And they were basically like, we'll give you $100,000 for this Jeep. And they're like, and she's like, wow. And really the whole kind of message here is that like, know your worth and like, trust that. And if you're someplace that they don't value you, then that's probably not the best place for you. So like you know, I have a daughter who's a senior this year. And one of the things I always try to really instill in her is like, trust your heart. And that's the same message here is like, you need to know like that when you're someplace, and that's one of the reasons they say a lot of people, one of the biggest reasons people will leave jobs is because they don't feel valued. And that's really important is that you feel valued and like what you're contributing is acknowledged and appreciated. So I just really wanted to drive home that that's a really like key learning that I've learned is to trust myself in my jobs. Let's see, next slide here. Oh, so this might be of interest to you. You're all beginning out here at Bentley. So Mongo DB has an internship program. Basically, you need to have 1 quarter or semester remaining after you conclude the internship. All of our internships are over summer. They are paid for internships. They're 10 weeks. They're like a hybrid model, which is a few days in the office and a few days remote. And I know we have New York. We may have a few positions here in Boston. These are kind of the key US locations. But you can go to this URL and sign up. We do a lot of information sessions about the internships. A lot of these are kind of like engineering developer, there's quite a lot of those, but we also have them in other areas like operations. I think we might have a few in sales and other areas. So I would definitely start a lot, not just MongoDB, but most of these tech companies have internship programs. And so that's like, we definitely recommend that you like target the companies you're most interested in. And, definitely our internship program, we do a lot of great stuff for the interns, like in the office, like, volunteering activities, after hours activities, lots of fun stuff, as well as getting to learn as well during your internship. So a few things here about like, let's stay in touch. I'd say like, definitely join the MongoDB for Academia program. It's free. It's not going to cost you anything. You just go out to mongodb.com/students. I would say definitely take the student skill badge. 60 minutes of your time, post that Credly badge on LinkedIn, get a LinkedIn post out of it. If you're interested in our internship program, you're going to be a sophomore next year, and that'd be a great time to apply and sign up for our summits and information sessions. The other thing is we have local mugs and webinars. So as I mentioned, mongodb.local, we don't do a big 1-week user conference. We do these, go to different cities, and we do 1-day conferences. And we often have, like I said, I know we've run them in Boston before. They may not be every year, but it would be at this website. But we have local MongoDB user groups. And I know we have one here in Boston. They run events. That's a great place to go for an evening. Meet professionals, I always call it planting seeds. Like you meet these people, you start planting seeds, you have a conversation, you connect with them on LinkedIn. The next thing you know, if you kind of keep connected with them, maybe they have an opportunity and they like you and it fits a job they have, where, that's very not uncommon for people to reach out and be like, hey, I have this position. I think it would be a good fit for you, especially, an entry-level position. And then we do a lot of free webinars on different topics. So definitely recommend that. And there's a lot of pre-recorded stuff out there as well. So at some point, maybe before we leave, we could take a quick LinkedIn pic, or I think you might have taken a few already. So I will be authoring a LinkedIn post after this. So I would highly recommend you connect to me on LinkedIn, which my LinkedIn is down here, or you can just find me, Kim Yohannan. I'm the only Kim Yohannan on LinkedIn. I will say that. I used to be a Kim Smith, and there are about 10,000 Kim Smiths, but only one Kim Yohannan. So I always encourage students to LinkedIn to me, and I'm always happy to talk if you need career advice or help on anything or you have questions. But yeah, I don't know. Let me take some questions here. No pressure. Anybody have questions? Oh, I also have these little handouts if anybody's interested. I will pass these out. Basically, it's about the MongoDB Academia program. But if at any point you're early in your career, you decide you want to get a PhD, MongoDB has a fellowship program where we fund a few students every year and give them money for their research. Maybe I'll just count these out and pass them around. So does anybody have any questions? I could start asking questions. I was an elementary school teacher, we could start like clapping and stuff like that. I'm just kidding.
And if you have questions online, please put them in chat. On you.
You put that one. I ran the other top. Yeah, you can skip yourself. Yeah. Didn't remember you.
If not, we have questions for you, so you may as well ask yours first. Go ahead.
Yes.
So like,
Say your name, please.
I'm Matthew. The type of like flexible data document you use, do you guys use like other like third parties like Python or like?
It's a great question. I actually didn't cover that because I also already gave them to you. I wanted to kind of keep it like not too, a little bit on MongoDB, but you already got one, but not too much on MongoDB. Here you go. Take those, pass them down. If anyone didn't get one, let me know. That is a great point. So MongoDB, yes. So we have Compass, which is like a GUI interface. You can use command line. But when you go to so we have the most popular certification for students and schools that I partner with is the MongoDB Associate Developer Certification, which you can take for free if you complete the certification learning path online. It's all e-learning. So basically, the intro to MongoDB would be, it's 12 units, it's about 12 hours. So I will say this, when you think about the skill badge, 60 to 90 minutes, it's a credential. It's like you learned something. It's like a certificate, right? Validating that you learned something. And then a certification is a third party formalized that you have learned specific skills. So it's not MongoDB just saying, hey, you know this. It's like a third party. It's a formalized process with questions. And when they create certification exams, they do kind of have, before they release them, typically they have like a pilot group so they can validate the questions, make sure they're solid questions. And for example, if everybody gets the question right, you're going to throw that out. It's not a good question. If everybody gets the question wrong, that's also not a great question. So you want questions that are challenging, but also fair. So at MongoDB, you would take the 12 hours and then you would have to pick the driver language, which there are 5 official for the certification: PHP, Java, Python, PHP, Java, Python. I'm not gonna, Node.js, and I think there's one other, I can't remember off the top of my head. But then you have to take 2 to 3 hours of e-learning on. So you would pick the driver, so it'd be on the driver that you can directly connect to the MongoDB database, and then you know, how to do CRUD, you know, create, read, update, delete in the database. And so that would be about 15 hours of learning. So that's a great question, yes. But we also have, like I said, Compass, which is our GUI interface or command lines. There's lots of different ways. We also have like a relational database migrator where you can take a relational database and feed it through this migrator to kind of reformat it into MongoDB. And one of the big things that MongoDB is doing now with AI is we are using AI to help companies that have legacy applications. So a lot of companies have really old applications that aren't, it's very hard for them to move them off because they've had them, let's say, for a decade with all this data. It's like, how do you migrate and reformat it into a more flexible database? And so they're using AI where they're, instead of having to pay like a consulting company, which would be a lot of money, which is why most people don't do it because a lot of man hours, they're using AI to like feed in all the documents and feed in the schema of the database to then really kind of get the bulk of the work, let's say 70% of the work done. And then there's about 30%, maybe that's not an exact number. Let me just say this. I'm just kind of guesstimating here, where people still have to come in. You know, it's just like anything. Just because you're using a tool to help you be more efficient, you still need to validate that. But that's a great question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Oh, yes.
I'm Paul. My question is like, how do you see like business like evolving in the tech field? Because most of us are studying, you know, business and Bentley's big on business. So
Oh, yeah.
it's
Started at, it's a business school, basically. Yeah. So you mean, how do I see technology evolving? Like, I mean,
I guess like, how do you see like business being used in tech companies like more and more as like AI and all of that kind of?
oh, for sure. I mean, basically, all companies are adapting, like for AI. Like, I mean, it's like anything. It's like when the cloud came about, right? It's you know, it's a lot of things in life are like a pendulum. Like, you know, people will like be like, we're going to move everything that's on prem to the cloud, right? And then it'll be in the cloud, but then they'll be like, oh, some of these things have to stay on prem. So I think a lot of things become hybrid, right? As new technologies come about, people will evolve and adopt that technology, but they'll still have different use cases for being on-prem versus, you know, a lot of times like government, different things, they need to be in a secure location, right? They'll be on-prem. They won't put that data in the cloud because of security and whatnot. But I mean, bottom line is there's always going to be new technology and things that are driving. Even MongoDB is a prime example. There were only relational databases, right? There wasn't a document model. And then because there was a need, because of unstructured data becoming so prevalent and semi-structured data based on how we live and work today, they needed to have a different model to more effectively manage that. And so that's how, I mean, anything in life, kind of what's the real value and use case? There's going to be a real need to kind of evolve. So I think cloud would be one of the big technologies that, you know, really come about in the last, you know, decade plus. And then you also have like AI where, you know, the way I do my job today, I mean, we have a version of Chat GPT. It's called Mongo GPT. And it's because they don't want us putting proprietary information out on the web, right, in the public domain. So we can upload like presentations and documents into that and then get a return. So I think like, if I just think about myself, how businesses are operating and what MongoDB is doing, AI is, I would say, like, you still need to know the topic and know the basic skills. But then, like I was just talking with Mark about this during lunch, like I often write stuff, so I write it all up and then I put it into Mongo GPT and I get a little bit more polished version. But if you just say, hey, give me this, it's gonna come out of like a chat GPT as like too not authentic, like you don't have your own voice in it, right? So I think when it comes to AI for most companies, it's about accelerating and what their work, and even now they're using AI to double check, you know, to like say you're a security company, you can have more automated stuff checking against different, you know, trends and models and known threats more effectively. But you're still going to have a person that's kind of overseeing that and validating that. So I think it allows people to be more effective and efficient, regardless of the business. All businesses have some facet right now of AI. It's kind of like how most companies that had only on-prem solutions, which is how MongoDB started, evolved and have a cloud solution, because that's kind of what the customers and the market is demanding. So I definitely think as trends evolve, I mean, it's kind of like, if you use a very basic example, maybe you've heard this one, like we all, you know, you all probably don't remember this, but I'm going to date myself a bit here. We would go to Blockbuster and get our, you know, DVDs or our VHS tapes. But, you know, the companies that thought about, okay, the technology is changing now, it's all online streaming, are the ones that are going to stay, you know, at the forefront and continue. You're going to have to continue to evolve and adapt as an overall business by paying attention to what consumers want and what's happening in the tech space. Very long-winded answer, but
Thank you.
hopefully that's helpful.
We have a question online from Sophia. Sophia, if you're there, could you unmute and ask away?
Sorry. Yes. Is the Mongo PT run by ChatGPT? Similar to, like, I think Copilot is also run by ChatGPT.
That is a great question. Actually, I don't know that, but definitely I could find that out and get back to you. Could be. I mean, it could be. A lot of companies will take solutions and OEM them, which is basically like they repackage the solution under like a proprietary thing. It's kind of like a basic example is like you buy Philadelphia cream cheese, that's the name brand, but probably the Stop and Shop brand could possibly be Philadelphia cream cheese. You just don't know it because they're basically like repackaging it under their own brand. I wouldn't be surprised. I know at our company too, along those lines, like we are using large language models and feeding different things into the internet to see what kinds of responses are getting back. And then we'll update our documentation to kind of help us evolve as a company. So when people search, they get the responses that are going to be the best and the most correct. That's a great question. I will find out and I'll let Mark know, or if you don't mind, you can connect to me on LinkedIn and then I will chat you or message back to you the answer.
Can you talk a little bit about security? Maybe databases and things that you need to worry about. And by the way, after, don't open your laptop away yet because we have a QR code for attendance when we're done.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I mean, whether it's a database or anything, I mean, you want to be secure. I would say like, even now, whatever application you're using, you should be using two-factor authentication because it's really going to be easy. I mean, when I think of security, let me take a step back. So every product, whether it's database, a firewall, and you know, a router, a switch, whatever, is going to have security features as part of the product, even like your operating system on your laptop. But what you'll see at most things is then you have bigger security products that kind of go around all the other products. So there's different layers of security. And definitely, you know, when it comes to, I mean, I am not a tech expert. I am technology enough to be dangerous, but I'm not the user. Like I'm not a developer. I'm not writing code to the database. When it comes to MongoDB, I know enough I have a cluster. I know how to like, you know, query or do a search, you know, do a query in it. I can do an index, like basic stuff. But it's basically you only want the users who are supposed to access the database and those parts of the data in the database that are authorized to use it. So you're going to have, you know, user authentication. That's going to be very important. Like I said, just in a general example, the applications you're using, I would say use two-factor authentication. If you're not, I know it's kind of a pain, but you want that. You want to make sure that only you are the person that is accessing your data, especially like financial transactions and things of that nature. I mean, a kind of side note tip, like whenever I'm going to transfer money, I always do like a small transfer first when I'm making that connection, so that when I do a larger transfer, I know it's going into my account successfully. That may be not a little bit rudimentary, Mark, but if you are very interested in the security of Mongo DB databases, we do have some skill badges on that out on learn.mongodb.com. But that's kind of a basic answer. And I don't know that you guys want me getting way down into the technical details anyways.
Other questions?
How about for a question for you all? Does anybody like know right now what they want to do? Like, are you going to be like a business analyst? Anybody? Or does anybody have any idea? Or are you kind of give yourself some time to figure it out? Time, yeah, that's good. I think attending these kinds of tech talks, I mean, I would say like, just know like whatever you decide, you can still like pivot, as I said on my presentation. I mean, I taught elementary school for 7 years. Now I've been in IT for 2 decades, doing various jobs, but using that education background. So you definitely can reinvent yourself, which is definitely something you may decide as you're doing your career that you want to do. I mean, everything in life is, you know, it is a chance, taking a chance. But I say, you take a chance. If you don't love it, then you move on and do something else, right? Like it doesn't mean that a lot of times taking that turn may bring you down the road, even though you maybe take this turn and it's not something you absolutely love, but it may bring you to the next job, maybe like the most amazing job ever. You know, all of it is kind of a learning journey. So don't ever feel like, you know, you're kind of stuck. You definitely have choices that you can take. Any other questions?
Do the stickers make it around?
Anybody got one that wanted one?
Okay. One other question from online. Did teaching elementary school help you work in groups?
Well, yes, I would say that it definitely did. I mean, a lot of things, I think, when it comes to the teaching part. So I would say it's one thing to know how to do something. It's another thing to teach others how to do it. That's like when you really like master something. But yes, I think like you're kind of teaching elementary school is fostering like interactions with students. And, you know, a lot of that is just teaching them how to learn how to work together. And also I learned a lot too. I mean, and anything I've done, I'm always like saying, what can I learn out of this? How can I better myself? How can I be a better teammate? You know, with my teammates, like at the team I'm in now, they're very collaborative, and asking someone to look at something or asking for help, I would say is a huge strength, not a weakness. Again, you're going to end up with something probably better than if you just worked by yourself.
This is your QR code for attendance?